On this week's show, the streets run red in Victorian London as I take a butcher's at Assassin's Creed Syndicate.
John emerges from the shadows to reveal the weapons that should be in any self-respecting assassin's arsenal. The street urchins tell us why players continue to feel the need for Creed. And Aoife takes us on a tour of gaming's most popular real-life locations.
It's the best of times, it's the worst of times on this week's Video Game Nation. Eight long years ago, Assassin's Creed was something genuinely worth getting excited about.
While it's easy to decry the first game's rather limited and repetitive nature in retrospect, there was plenty it did well. This was an open-world adventure with a difference, not only because everything in sight could be effortlessly scaled, but also because it transported us to a fascinating and utterly foreign period of historical importance and dared to make an Arabic character the hero.
This was risky territory for a AAA game, but Ubisoft's gamble paid off and a new blockbuster franchise was born.
And for a short while, it looked as though the flawed but sturdy groundwork it had laid would be reinforced by its sequels. Assassin's Creed 2 transported us to 15th century Italy and introduced us to the charismatic Ezio Auditore di Firenze. The world was bigger, there was much more to do, and you got to beat up the Pope.
As a wise man once said, success breeds complacency, and sure enough, once the coffers started to fill, the bloat began to creep in. Assassin's Creed became an annual affair, which is always a sure sign that invention's going to take a back seat, and our good friend Diminishing Returns made an unwelcome appearance.
The ongoing issue with the series is its tendency to flood the world with samey side missions, collectible trinkets, and hollow gimmicks, while failing to address the inherent issues that have plagued the game since day one. Where players demanded added depth, Ubisoft misguidedly responded with added breadth. It all reached a nadir with last year's Assassin's Creed Unity, a bug-riddled mess set during the French Revolution that was anything but revolutionary.
I really don't think we should have Assassin's Creed games every year. I mean, I still enjoy them, but look at Grand Theft Auto. You know, Rockstar, they spend years between iterations of Grand Theft Auto, which means A, you have time in between to get excited for the new one coming out. B, when the new one comes out, it's actually advanced. Like, loads of things are different because they've been working on it for like 4 years.
Assassin's Creed games are only as interesting as their settings, really, because the bare bones of how you play is usually the same as it was before. So the thing that makes you want to buy a new one is, do I want to go to this new place? So as long as Assassin's Creed can keep making amazing new places, I think there's always going to be some juice in it.
I don't know if we've reached overkill of Assassin's Creed at this stage. I think you'll know you've reached overkill of Assassin's Creed when you get to like Assassin's Creed Manchester and it's set in 90s Manchester and you have to go and assassinate the guy that sung Ebenezer Good in the 90s. So that would be really good.
If it doesn't want to end up like Sonic the Hedgehog, they need to take a 5-year break and come back with something new, groundbreaking. That's what they need to do.
And so, with this year's installment, Assassin's Creed Syndicate, the excitement and goodwill that greeted the thrilling newcomer back in 2007 has all but ebbed away.
And weirdly, that sort of works in its favour. While it's unlikely to convert anyone who's denounced the series so far, lapsed fans will find a game with a renewed sense of purpose that surpasses their low expectations.
This time we find ourselves reliving the misadventures of Jacob and Evie Fry, twin assassins on a mission to forcibly tear Victorian London from the grasp of the ever-dastardly Knights Templar. Far from being a lazy gender swap option, Jacob and Evie are two distinctive, well-rounded characters with different motivations, albeit almost identical methods.
Boris Jacob has aspirations of becoming a gang leader, determined to rally the oppressed and disillusioned and exploit them to conquer London one borough at a time. Meanwhile, intelligent, well-mannered Evie is more concerned with tracking down another piece of Eden, the mystical MacGuffins that most players have long stopped caring about.
As is Assassin's Creed tradition, both characters are aided by an all-star cast of the era, from Charles Dickens to Arthur Conan Doyle. As is also Assassin's Creed tradition, however, they're not entirely accurate portrayals. At least, I don't think Charles Darwin was in the habit of sabotaging opium factories, and I'm fairly sure Alexander Graham Bell didn't spend his time crafting hallucinogenic darts.
The most interesting character by far, though, is London itself. As someone who's called the city home for the last 15 years, I found it fascinating to clamber around some of its most iconic structures and observe its sprawl from an entirely new angle.
Boats crowd the Thames like an aquatic M25, smoke-belching chimneys dominate the skyline, and its blackened streets are awash with cutthroat criminals, begging children and ruthless industrialists. This is London at its nasty, grimy, bloody best, and it's a joy to wander through the likes of Waterloo Station and Covent Garden as they were nearly 150 years ago.
I mean, there is nothing quite like climbing up Elizabeth Tower in the Houses of Parliament. You know, the face of Big Ben, the most iconic landmark, not only in the UK, but one of the most iconic buildings in the entire world. And I think it's definitely the most iconic building that Assassin's Creed has ever had in one of its games. So the idea of just standing at the top of that and sinking actually makes me really excited.
It's all the tall ones, isn't it? I'm someone who, the moment I'm in a Creed game, I immediately climb all the things I can get at and climb. So I, get rid of the fog. So Big Ben, Nelson's Column, it's all that stuff. I just want to get up there and, yeah, look at all the pretty graphics.
Syndicate doesn't really need to do much to impress me. What it needs to do is to let me climb Big Ben, leap off the top and land on a London bus.
I think it's pretty good that you can climb the Houses of Parliament. I mean, is that not something we've all dreamed of doing, just climbing up and having a look and maybe shouting something obscene through the window at some point? I'm not sure if it has that functionality, but it should.
If you're expecting genuine change, though, don't. This is still an Assassin's Creed game through and through.
The parkour, while a little more involved, can still be unnecessarily fussy when you require subtlety, although the addition of a rope launcher makes scaling larger towers and zipping between rooftops far less of a chore. The combat is certainly heftier, but continues to feel simplistic and clumsy compared to its peers, and even though the side missions and collectibles have been streamlined somewhat, most of them still feel like unnecessary padding.
All that said, as the latest addition to a franchise whose edges have become somewhat blunted, Syndicate is the sharpest, most polished Assassin's Creed for years. Ubisoft needs to remove its blinkers and look to the likes of Metal Gear Solid 5, The Witcher 3 and Batman Arkham Knight if it wants future Assassin's Creeds to improve in any meaningful way, but that doesn't prevent Syndicate from being worth a stab. Now, John Robertson is very keen to share with you the 5 deadly devices that no assassin should leave home without, because, and I quote, they really do the trick. Whether he was talking about games or real life, I didn't stick around to ask because he had that look in his eye. You know the one.
And keep a lookout.
All right, I'll shout if I get any bother.
Hello, television friend. Hi, Def. High five. To be a professional, you'll need the appropriate tools. A mechanic needs a spanner. A guitarist needs a guitar. Katie Hopkins, well, some people are born tools.
To be a professional assassin, you'll need weapons that are subtle, elegant and deadly. Here's 5 so sleek, everyone will think your target perished of natural causes.
Although depending on how annoying you are on Twitter, a bullet to the neck is technically natural causes. The signature weapon of Assassin's Creed, the hidden blade, is the fashion accessory that topples governments.
A millennium-spanning murder machine that makes mincemeat of kings, popes and pirates, the hidden blade pops into a target, then pops back up your sleeve, leaving an assassin undetected and unblamed.
In a world of guns and flamethrowers, why would anyone pick a knife?
Because the spy in Team Fortress 2 is the nightmare of every heavy, medic and pyro. Everything's going so beautifully on your side, just hanging out with your other teammates when, God damn it, one of them was a traitor all along and you've been stabbed in the back.
Which kills you instantly.
Fail to sneak and you've literally just brought a knife to a gunfight.
The Farsight XR20 is the most overpowered weapon in the history of multiplayer. Now, the first time I ever heard about a sniper rifle, I was 10, and my mother was telling me about the assassination of JFK. Video games won't mess up your kids' history, will do that much faster. And I don't want to sound silly, but if there was ever a gun that was going to clear up every mystery surrounding the Kennedy assassination,
it'd be the Farsight XR20.
For a start, it's not just a sniper rifle, it's a sniper railgun.
And it can shoot through walls. Also, it can track enemies through the walls using an X-ray scanner. Also, it can take out anyone in the game with a single shot.
If you've ever had a conspiracy theorist for a friend, this is the gun that can do everything they think the CIA can.
Also, it was built by aliens.
So the next time you're thinking of blaming Lee Harvey Oswald,
remember, there could have been a shooter not just behind, but inside the grassy knoll. In fact, probably in another town, firing an X-ray railgun that was built in outer space.
It's completely ridiculous. If he wasn't elderly and infirm, Gen could be the deadliest warrior in the Street Fighter series.
Actually, scratch that. Part of what makes Gen so tremendously badass is how ridiculously unwell he is. A legendary assassin, Gen has a terminal disease, which fans have speculated is leukemia.
Because that'll make the game more fun.
But Gen fights on.
No, seriously, people have spent actual time speculating as to what illness he has, and that's the one they came up with.
Having trained his body into an incredible state,
I mean, games just aren't fun enough until a main character has terminal cancer.
Gen is the only Street Fighter character who can switch fighting styles mid-fight and has taken out hundreds of targets over the years. He doesn't need long-range weapons, he can teleport to where you are, deliver lightning-fast palm strikes, and even do a rushing attack so powerful he'll have slid past you long before you die.
He's so dangerous he doesn't need a weapon. He is the weapon.
And unlike other assassins on this list, he's not fragile at all. If Gen defeats Akuma in Street Fighter Alpha 2, he refuses to finish him off, preferring to spend his final days constantly fighting.
As with most things, Doctor Who was right.
In Dishonored, Corvo can bolt through space and time, bringing opponents a special delivery of death faster than they can think.
Teleportation really feels like cheating in a steampunk game when the best anyone else can hope for is a cog or a zeppelin.
But my word, is it effective.
Right, it's time for a break, so grab yourself a cup of Rosie Lee, and I'll be back in a threepenny bit. Ooh, no, that's not right. I'll be back in a bit.
I'm going to take this disc out of the tray, I'm going to snap it in half and destroy your entire digital world.
Feast your eyes on the Sky Movies Christmas channel, available now.
Welcome back. So, Assassin's Creed is a welcome return to form for a series with a more checkered past than the Knights Templar. But even at its lowest moments, these time-hopping, history-bending exploits of murderous freedom fighters have continued to attract a devoted following. So what gives? Well, fortunately that's up to these Scobberlotchers and Wiffle Waffles to explain.
Well, Assassin's Creed is so popular because it combines a lot of just really popular and good elements together. So you've got the stealthy, killy, sort of planny stuff of a Hitman game, but then you've got the vast openness and collectible stuff of maybe a Zelda game, and then you've got, obviously, Prince of Persia DNA right in there.
I think if you take a sort of melodramatic soap opera style story, mix it in with some sci-fi, mix it in with some historical fact, you're going to attract a large fan base, which Assassin's Creed has.
I think the historical aspect sort of definitely, is one of the things that makes Assassin's Creed so popular, because I think everyone secretly wants to go to Renaissance Italy, don't they, or be an assassin or be a pirate. And playing a game with a historical setting sort of makes you feel a little bit clever, doesn't it? When in actual fact you're just still running around, jumping off buildings, stabbing people in the face. But you get to feel a little bit more intellectual while that's going on.
Assassin's Creed is like virtual tourism. It takes you to another place in another time. And although there's lots of things that aren't so great about Assassin's Creed, one thing it does better than anything else in all of games is take you somewhere and put you in a new place. And I think that's a lot of the appeal.
Because I think it was the first time we got to see parkour, right? This kind of freestyle running thing. And I think why we loved that was because we all just hate commuting and we dream of the day that we won't have to take a bus.
My favourite Assassin's Creed game would have to be Brotherhood. Not technically the third, but it's the third in the series. And the best thing about that was it kept the same character from the game prior, which is why Ezio is rated as the best character in Assassin's Creed.
Stay out of sight.
So I think the game that I enjoyed the most in the series was Assassin's Creed 2. However, I do find myself going back to Assassin's Creed 1 a lot, and I feel like Although Assassin's Creed 2 is a better game, Assassin's Creed 1 actually had this big impact on me. I think that it was one of the last games to me that felt next gen. You know, it felt like, wow, this is so big and so beautiful and so much beyond what games were capable of just a couple of years ago. And for whatever flaws Assassin's Creed 1 has in it, I will always remember it for that.
With the first one, it did get to the point with all the people that would run up to you and like grab you and bother you, like the beggars in the first one. They annoyed me to the point where I considered for a split second taking the disc out of the tray and be like, I'll show you to annoy me. I'm gonna take this disc out of the tray, I'm gonna snap it in half and destroy your entire digital world. Have that.
Oh, if you wanna play a female assassin, great. Now, then you've got to download the PSP version and get the PSP. Nobody's got PSP. Who's got PSP? Oh, great. You wanna be a black assassin? Great. Well, then you have to download the DLC content. Why do I have to be, why, if I would be the black assassin, do I have to download additional content for? Why? Why am I paying extra? And then I paid extra, turned out he was a slave. I'm like, oh, damn you, Ubisoft.
My favourite Assassin's Creed game is Assassin's Creed Black Flag because pirates are awesome. And when I was playing it, it was a dreary, grey, horrible winter in the UK and I was escaping to these beautiful sunny islands. I absolutely loved it.
My favourite game in the series is Assassin's Creed 2, simply because of one moment, right? So it's set in Renaissance Italy, this game, and there's a bit where you meet a man called Mario, right? And he goes, "It's-a me, Mario." Yeah? Now, that sounds like rubbish, but like, considering how unfunny video games are, that's the funniest moment in the history of video games.
I think it's got to be 2. 2 was the one that I played the most and really got into and really started to appreciate just the level of kind of historical detail they put into it.
It's got to be 2 and Brotherhood. Though I know I'm picking 2, but those 2 for me, I played them back to back. It's about the location, same as being excited about London. I know those places in Italy, so it was quite exciting. Didn't enjoy Revelations quite so much. I think, so to some extent, I think I was burnt out because I did 2 Brotherhood and straight into Revelations, and I wasn't ready for more. But also, location not so much, and smoke bombs and tower defence. It's rubbish.
I think, let's be honest, the future for the Assassin's Creed series is more games in the Assassin's Creed series, isn't it? I think, especially now we have got this sort of new lease of life with this new one that is quite good. You know, Ubisoft will never knowingly slaughter a goose that's laying golden eggs, will it? It will just keep beating it until the eggs coming out of it are all sort of broken and rubbish.
I would like to see an Assassin's Creed Edinburgh because it's better than London and there are more cool things to climb. I don't see any reason why that shouldn't be where it goes next.
I think the future for the series means we should like jump right forward and go to modern day because I don't think that there's any one of us that wouldn't really appreciate and enjoy, you know, being given the contract to assassinate Katie Hopkins. In fact, we'd probably just do it for free.
The Assassin's Creed's whole plot is the perfect excuse to have multiple time periods in one game. You could even maybe, this would be cool, have the same place actually develop over time. So you're in the same city, but the city itself is so vastly different. And I don't mean like, oh, we'll just plonk a car and a lamppost down like they did in Assassin's Creed Brotherhood. I mean, like, actually have whole buildings torn down, new buildings brought up, and actually get that feeling of, wow, this is what a place is, and this is what it is like to be a city. You know, it grows, it decays, it grows again. That would be really cool.
Well, they're getting nearer present day now, so I'm actually hoping, for the same reason I'm excited about London, because I know London quite well, maybe do my hometown, maybe do Milton Keynes, possibly in the 80s when it was in its heyday. Get the Point. Do you know the Point? Like, it was the first multiplex in the UK, 10 screens, not a big deal now, but it was then. It was the first one that had like multiple screens and it had 10, all housed under a giant, like, red neon pyramid for no discernible reason whatsoever. So that'd be quite good to climb up that. So it's sort of like Blackpool, but with none of the class. Oh, Blackpool! Do Blackpool, that's better.
One of the many amazing things we can do thanks to games is to virtually travel to places we've never been. Into space, to the centre of the Earth, under the sea, and flying off to fictional worlds, sure, but we can also visit places in the real world we've never been to. It's one of the best things about games. In an instant, they can transport you to and allow you to explore any location. But in the past at least, developers seem to be fond of having us explore the same few locations over and over again. There are more games set in space than there are games set in the Southern Hemisphere, and while I do love space, there are plenty of places on Earth I'm still waiting to become a virtual tourist of. So, where are most games that feature real-world cities currently set? Hundreds take place in North America for a start. New York, or a close enough representation of it, has been featured in titles including Grand Theft Auto 4, Prototype, Ghostbusters, Mafia 2, The Wolf Among Us, Lego Marvel Superheroes, and pretty much any game involving Spider-Man. Boston has seen its fair share of games too, with Assassin's Creed 3 representing it historically, alongside The Last of Us, and most recently, Fallout 4. Then there's Watch Dogs, which features an open-world Chicago, Infamous Second Son, which takes place in Seattle, and Washington, D.C., where you'll explore a post-apocalyptic version of the nation's capital in Fallout 3. Simply put, if you want to virtually visit the States, gaming has you pretty much covered. Across the pond, Europe is another fairly well-travelled digital hotspot. London's had a big starring role in Assassin's Creed Syndicate, The Order 1886 and The Getaway, as well as, surprise surprise, GTA London. Paris can be explored via premier virtual tourism franchise Assassin's Creed Unity, as well as The Saboteur, Don't Nods Remember Me, and the Broken Sword series. The rest of Europe's representation can largely be summed up by what's appeared in the Assassin's Creed series, with historical recreations of Rome, Florence, Venice, and Istanbul all getting a digital facelift. Asia and the Middle East have some representation as well, with the likes of Sleeping Dogs, the Yakuza series, Tokyo Jungle, The World Ends With You, and the original Assassin's Creed. But by and large, the Southern Hemisphere's continents of South America, Africa, and Oceania are far less well-travelled. That is, unless you count the requisite tracks and stadiums amidst sports and racing games and the occasional level in globe-trotting franchises like Splinter Cell, Uncharted, and Tomb Raider. There have been exceptions, like Far Cry 2 or Resident Evil 5, but these don't tend to be as detailed or as true to their real-life representations as other gaming cities. So why is that? Well, in part it's down to the location of many blockbuster development studios. It's much easier to make a game set in a location that you're close to or familiar with than one that you're not. And there's certainly nothing wrong with that, but it's probably worth developers taking a little leap outside their comfort zone every so often to stop players getting bored with visiting the same location. Choosing a city or country other games haven't done before also gives development studios the opportunity to tell stories or feature landmarks that have never been seen before. When was the last time you got to explore an open-world recreation of New Zealand or Australia, for example? A Far Cry that allows you to get up close and personal with some of Australia's unique wildlife sounds like a game I'd want to play. And last year's Never Alone, which allowed players to guide Nuna, an Inupiaq girl, and her pet Arctic fox through the Alaskan wilderness, went above and beyond to try and teach players about Alaskan indigenous folklore. But plenty of games are starting to broaden their horizons. Uncharted 4 takes players to Madagascar, whilst Ghost Recon Wildlands takes place exclusively in Bolivia. And why not? The beautiful thing about games is that they can take place anywhere, so why not make games that take us everywhere? In games, the only real limit is our imagination. In real life, I have the very real limit of being able to afford plane tickets, so the more locations I can tick off my virtual passport, the better.
Elena Fisher, foreign correspondent.
What city would you like to pay a virtual visit to? What era should Assassin's Creed tackle next? Why is that man in my garden again? Share your answers and any other thoughts that pop into that wonderful mind of yours on the official Video Game Nation Facebook page or on Twitter using the frequently abused hashtag VGN. See you next time.
£1 million drop. The penny will drop tomorrow at 9 here on Challenge. In fact, millions will as Davina returns. Over on Pick at the same time, squabbles and fist fights in Night Cops.